Without further ado, let us introduce our first speaker of the day. Zoltan Vardy is a business growth mentor with 30 years of global corporate and entrepreneurial experience, who helps B2B startup founders scale their business internationally by applying his 9-step business development framework called the Launch Code. Zoltan created the Launch Code, a 9-step business development framework that helps B2B technology startups boost their revenues by adapting corporate planning, sales, and management techniques to a startup environment. He has accelerated the revenue growth of hundreds of startups in agtech, medtech, AI, business services, and media by introducing them to the Launch Code via one-on-one mentoring and group workshops. Zoltan has a multicultural background, born in the United States, graduated from Cornell University, and spending his youth traveling across Europe. He divides his time between London and Budapest. So, speaking on the rules on the power of focus, please welcome Zoltan Vardy to the Impact stage.
All right, everyone, welcome. Got there in the end. It is a pleasure to see you virtually all around the world. I'm excited to share my thoughts on the critical role that focus plays in building a successful company. These are insights I've gained over a 30-year career in global business, including over 1,000 hours spent mentoring startup founders across Europe and the Middle East. You know, I'm reminded about the power of focus every weekday. When I arrive at my office and I sit at my desk, I take a glance at this small picture sitting in the corner of the room. It's got the number 25 in it, and there's a picture of a beach in Croatia in the background. It looks like this. This picture is actually 18 years old, and it holds a really special place in my life because it reminds me of how concentrating all of your effort, your limited resources on achieving one single outcome can have such a huge impact on your business, your career, and frankly, even your life. And the history of this picture is this. In 2002, I had successfully sold my first startup, and I decided to return to a corporate role to become commercial director of a national TV broadcaster in Hungary, a company called TV2. And the channel had lost its market-leading position to its primary competitor. And so I inherited a 40-person sales team that was, well, let's say, demotivated at the very least. And after a few months, I realized that they really needed to be shaken up. So they needed to find something to focus on in the future so they could let go of the past. And so I remember driving home one night after work and deciding that, you know, I really needed to get them to think about something big in the future, something they could sort of look at like a lighthouse to help them focus their energy. It had to be something that was bold, but not impossible. Now, at the time, the company's revenues were about 16 billion Hungarian forints, or about 60 million euros in today's dollars. I decided that in 3 years' time, in 2005, the revenues of the group would grow to 25 billion. So a growth of about 65%. Nothing too complicated, 25 in 2005. Now, it wasn't particularly scientific, but I did decide that I was going to share this goal with my team. And so I remember coming off of this high and saying, you know, I'm going to organize sort of an offsite team building event where I was going to share this information with my team. Well, let's just say my announcement was met with stunned silence. My sales team thought I was crazy. You know, our viewership is dropping, our competitors getting stronger, you know, the market is slow. We'll be lucky to even maintain our revenues, they told me, not grow them to such an extent. I anticipated this, and so I just told them this: look, you've got nothing to lose. No one is going to expect you to hit this big number, so we might as well try and see what happens. And then I held up this particular frame photo you see on the screen here, and I told them this. I said, just to make sure you all remember our goal, each of you is going to get one of these pictures, and we're going to put it on your desk. I'm going to ask you to put it on your desk. And you see there's this Croatian beach in the background behind this number 25. Well, this is where we will celebrate together as a team when we hit our number. Well, this seemed to have gotten their attention. And so over the coming months, every time I had an opportunity to do so, I shared and re-emphasized this number, 25 in 2005, 25 in 2005. When it was a bad month, I said, don't worry about it. We're shooting for 25 billion in 2005. When we had a good month, I said, great. We've taken one step closer to 25 billion in 2005. You get the picture. My team's initial skepticism eventually turned into curiosity, and then slowly evolved into interest and then excitement, and finally, passion. You see, as we move from year to year, our formerly impossible goal, our focus, suddenly became much more real. In 2003, we hit 19 billion. In 2004, we hit 22 billion. And when we closed the books in 2005, we reached 25.1 billion Hungarian forints, or about 100 million euros of revenue. Well, suffices to say, we had an amazing weekend celebration on this beach in Croatia. And 2 years later, I was actually appointed CEO of the company. Now, why am I sharing this story? We all dream of achieving something great. As an entrepreneur, you dream of building an amazing business. As a professional, you dream of building a successful career. Yet my experience shows that so many people can't really turn these dreams into reality. Their dreams remain unfulfilled. And I wonder, why is that? Why is it that some of us are unable to achieve the goals we set out for ourselves, or we give up before we even reach the finish line? And the main reason I've come to realize that people fail to achieve their goals is because they don't spend enough time deciding where to focus their time and energy on, to identify where they should put their limited resources and their will. Now, there is no question that finding your focus is not easy. I mean, if you're an entrepreneur, as many of you are, you'll know that dealing with the day-to-day challenge of launching a business can really suck the energy out of you. You've got so many decisions to make, so many directions you could take. Finding your focus also means letting go of certain things that have become natural to you. So it's not easy. And, thanks to COVID, this kind of imaginary line that exists between our private and our professional lives has all but disappeared, making finding your focus in a world of nonstop Zoom calls, sitting in home, is even more difficult. So it's not surprising that it's difficult to decide what is important in this environment. The solution to this dilemma may seem difficult, but actually it's at its essence extremely simple. Choose your love and love your choice. That means decide where to focus your limited time, energy, and resources, and commit yourself to achieving a desired outcome, right? And to building, in this case, if you're an entrepreneur, the business that you dream about. So what I want to talk about today in the next 20 minutes or so is to share kind of my thoughts on the power of focus and why I believe it's critical that you capture this power for your own benefit. So the three areas I want to talk about first is why focus matters. So what are the measurable benefits of having a focus in your life and in business? Then I want to talk a little bit about the nature of focus and some of the lessons I've learned from studying one of the world's legendary entrepreneurs and innovators, Steve Jobs. And then I want to talk about how to find your focus. I'm going to share a very practical exercise that you can apply tomorrow to help you bring more focus into your business or life and feel its benefits almost immediately. My hope is that you'll hear at least one idea that will help you find your focus. I was recently reminded about the power of focus, about how identifying a desired outcome really can bring your ideas to life. And it was something that I'm sure many of you have also done, which is I decided to buy a new car. Now, I did some research and made the decision to buy a particular brand of and color of automobile, a Volkswagen Arteon, a black colored Volkswagen Arteon. And later that week, as I was driving, I noticed something really interesting. Everywhere I looked, I saw a black Volkswagen Arteon heading in my direction. Some of them were driving on the opposite direction of the road. Some of them were parked at the side of the road. Occasionally, one would pull up next to me when I was at a traffic light. But I thought to myself, this is so bizarre. I've never seen so many black Volkswagens in my life. Now, it wasn't as if suddenly the entire neighborhood in which I lived had, decided to buy the same car that I had. It was simply a matter of focus. See, what I learned is that if you pick a focus, it literally drives opportunities your way. You start noticing things that were always there, but you simply were not in the right frame of mind to notice them before. And so the same focus is really critical from the very foundation of a new business, whether you're talking about a target market or a target audience, or even the product that you're building. See, there's a fundamental misconception about business that keeps many early stage startup founders from really growing. And it states that the path towards growth comes from trying to sell the broadest possible set of products or services to the broadest audience of customers. In other words, the larger your net, the more fish you will catch. In reality, I've actually found the opposite to be true. Successful entrepreneurs are the ones that define a very clear set of goals and a clear niche and focus on that target audience with that product offering and follow that path step by step. So sticking with this analogy, It's not the fisherman that has the largest net who will catch the most fish, but is the one who finds the right portion of the lake where most fish that he's looking for gather, and he places his net in that one spot. So as a business, having that type of focus is going to help you benefit in multiple ways. The first is that focus creates a pathway to your desired outcome. So it enables you to identify the specific steps you need to take to get to where you want to go. That could be, developing the right market-ready product or service, or identifying the right sales and marketing strategy, hiring the right people, ensuring the necessary funding, whatever it is that gets you down that path. Focus also helps you make better decisions. It enables you to say no to opportunities that take you away from your focus. And I know personally that's often a very hard thing to do, especially at the early stage of a company when you're not entirely sure of what your focus is. You have to be able to say no to certain things that take you off the path. Focus also keeps you motivated. Since you know where you're headed and you know why you're headed there, you are more likely to overcome the ebbs and flows, the ups and downs of building a business, because you simply know that these are only short-term setbacks till you achieve your ultimate desired outcome. Now, one guy that understood the power of focus more than probably anybody in history was a guy named Steve Jobs, the co-founder of Apple and perhaps one of the most successful innovators and entrepreneurs of the century. And he understood the power of focus more than anyone. He believed that, and he insisted on boiling down everything to its essence. Okay, that simplicity and focus kind of were his mantras. And it was interesting. I recently came across a video of a speech that Steve Jobs gave to some local business people back in 1980. Okay, so Jobs was 25 years old. Apple was only 4 years old, and they had a single product, the Apple II desktop computer. And in this video, Jobs explains that the biggest problem that computer companies face is trying to remove this mental barrier that exists between the person and their ability to use a computer. And at that time, if you think about it, you basically needed to be able to program to use a computer. And so he goes on to say that he believes that Apple is really well positioned to solve this problem because its entire philosophical foundation is built on the fact that they want to create a direct relationship between one person and one computer and enable people to solve their problems through this relationship. Now, again, just to give you a bit of perspective, this is Steve Jobs speaking in 1980. This is decades before the commercial internet existed, the World Wide Web, the laptop didn't exist, the smartphone was decades away, apps didn't exist. A lot of the things that are such integral parts of our day-to-day lives that drive our relationship with computers did not exist. And here I was, laying in bed in the fall of 2020, about to go to sleep for the night, watching Steve Jobs speak on YouTube on an iPad that I was holding in my hand. Now, this guy clearly had an extremely strong focus and vision for his business. So what lessons can we learn about the nature of focus from Steve Jobs' presentation? Probably a lot based on what happened afterwards. The first lesson you can learn is your focus requires an absolute commitment to execution. So Steve Jobs didn't just state his vision for the world and leave it at that. He kept it front and center while implementing his entire product development strategy, starting with the Apple III, then the Apple printer, and ultimately in 1984 with the launch of the Apple Macintosh pictured here. The Apple Macintosh was the first all-in-one computer, personal computer. It gave people the ability to control a mouse, something that they had never done before, and their ability to interact with a graphical user base based on icons. It was a major step towards realizing his vision of one person and one computer. And so what I learned from this is that if it's not enough to know what you want to achieve, you need to translate that into specific and achievable steps. The second lesson you can learn from studying Steve Jobs' life is that your focus should be firm in the long run, but flexible on the way. Now, it's hard to imagine that Steve Jobs would have imagined every single step in his one person, one computer vision and how it would come to life. He actually oversaw the development of multiple products that did not work in that direction. But between 1998 and his death in 2011, Apple would launch the iMac, the iBook laptop, the iPod pictured here, then the iPhone, the first smartphone in 2007, and then the iPad in 2010, and much, much more. So if you maintain your long-term focus, you will eventually get to your desired outcome. You may not be following the path that you originally thought. So you have to be flexible along the way and grab unexpected opportunities as they come. Finally, the third lesson I would say is if you haven't yet found your focus, don't worry, because your focus will eventually find you. You know, Steve Jobs gave a now legendary speech to the graduating class of Stanford University in 2005, where he reflected on some of the lessons he had learned in his life. And in this speech, he talked about how work filled such a huge part of your life. The only way to be truly satisfied is to do great work. And the only way to do great work was to do something you love to do. And so he encouraged the graduating class not to settle for to do something that doesn't make them happy. And he said, if you haven't found it yet, keep looking. He said, don't settle, as with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. So if you haven't found your focus set, it's worth fighting for because it does make a difference. So by this time, you're probably saying to yourself, okay, I get it. Having a focus is important. It's an important benefit to building a business, but what do I need to do to bring more focus into my life? Well, I actually want to share a simple exercise that I've used countless times over the course of my own career and my own business building experience to find my focus. And it's very similar to one I used in working with and mentoring startup founders and entrepreneurs. It's called destination planning, and it helps you answer the question, what exactly do I want to achieve? What is my desired outcome? Or if you're building a business, what do I want my business to look like? Why is this important? Well, we all know that building a business is hard work. I mean, it's easy to get lost in your day-to-day hustle, to your to-do list. You focus on things that are just in front of you. This exercise encourages you to take a step back and to ask the question, is all my hard work taking me to where I want to go? Now, I like to emphasize that destination planning is not some sort of theoretical process. It's not something you do and you kind of stick on the wall like some corporate value statement. In reality, it's a tool that enables you to plan better and make better decisions day to day. Your destination's purpose is similar to what the North Star, or also known as Polaris, served in the lives of sailors who navigated the oceans at night. Polaris, for those of you who don't know, is actually a star that sits at a fixed point in the sky. And before there was GPS or even a compass, sailors would keep an eye out on where the North Star was in relation to where they were at any given moment, because it would help them navigate their ships to arrive safely to port wherever they wanted to go. And so just like the North Star guided sailors in the night sky, your destination for your business will make sure you are always headed in the right direction, no matter how choppy the waters become. So how do you actually create a destination? Well, it's a four-step process. First, you choose a point in time in the future. I recommend you pick a moment in time, sort of 18 to 24 months from now. Write a series of statements in the present tense that describe your business at that moment in time. In other words, create a vision of your business at that moment in time, as if you were taking a photo or a picture. Make sure you detail your business across a lot of different focus areas. I'd say 5 most important ones. Product. So what does your product or service look like? Sales and marketing. How much revenue have you generated? How many deals or customers do you have? What markets are you in? Team and operations. So how many people do you have employed at the company? Are you with a couple of partners sitting in a single office, or are you part of a 100-person organization? Do you have multiple offices in multiple countries? How are you effectively operating? Fourth, finances. How much profit have you generated? How much money do you have in the bank? Have you raised money or funding? And if so, how much and from whom? These are all important questions you should be asking yourself. And finally, just a catch-all category of other, whatever else is important to you, make sure you write that down. Maybe your vision is to have a company where everybody works from home on Fridays or doesn't work on Fridays, whatever is important to you. Once you've done all that, I'd encourage you to take a final step, which is describe your state of mind of what you are feeling at that moment. Why is that important? Because we as human beings are driven much more by emotional connection, by rational decisions. And so if you can actually create that feeling of success, that feeling of positive feedback at that moment in time, you're more likely to achieve and get to your destination. So what does this look like if you go through the process? Probably something like this. Our product offering has these and these qualities. We've generated more than this much euro revenue from this many clients. We have a X number person of team, and we're based in 3 countries. We have strategic partnerships in place with X, Y, and Z companies. I feel proud of how much we've achieved with such few resources. Just an example of some of the statements that you would have in your destination. Now, as you can see, this is a very practical tool because it's got measurable elements in it. What it does is it gives you a clear picture of what success looks like for you. It helps you measure your progress because you'll have something to compare your progress to. It keeps you motivated because you'll experience the natural ups and downs of building a business, but you'll always have a crystal clear picture of why you're doing it and what you want to achieve. And you're going to use it as an ability to align and inspire your team because you'll have a clear vision driving all of your decisions. Now, having done this exercise literally hundreds of times with hundreds of different companies, there's a couple of things I'd like to call your attention to. One is remember to think big. Okay. If your destination doesn't scare you, it's probably not big enough. Be careful, of course, not to shoot too far, but make it something that's aspirational rather than just within reach. If you've created this exercise, you will have created a snapshot of your future, right? You've created that vision of what you want to achieve, your destination, where you want to get to. There's a couple of things you should be doing in order to make sure that you bring this to life and integrate it into your day-to-day existence. First, place it where you see it every day. Once you've written it down, capture the essence of whatever your destination is in a few words or symbols or pictures that reminds you of that destination. Put these words onto a Post-it note and place it on your bathroom mirror or your computer screen at work, wherever you're reminded of it every single day. And finally, place your destination front and center so it becomes part of your day-to-day reality, okay? Make sure it's not something you stick at the bottom of a drawer somewhere, never to be seen again, but it's something that you come across every single day. It has a huge impact on your ability to bring it to life. Next, share it with others. So if you're part of a founding team, discuss it with your co-founders. Better yet, do this exercise together. Make sure you're all headed in the right direction. If not, find common ground. I can't tell you how many times I've experienced it where two founders have done this exercise independently from each other, and they've realized that they were heading in completely different directions. Metaphorically speaking, one was heading to New York, the other one was heading to Tokyo, and they didn't understand why they weren't on the same page. Very important exercise to have. Next, discuss your destination with your entire team. If you've got a management layer in your business, make sure they understand that your destination is this and what role they have to play in making sure you arrive at that destination. And then repeat it over and over and over again until you think you've said it so many times that people cannot bear to hear it any longer. Then you say it again and again and again and again until you start hearing it back from others. Finally, use it as an endpoint for all your planning. So since you know how your destination, you know your endpoint, work back from there to create a set of goals for relevant shorter periods. Maybe that's a quarter, a month, or even weeks that take you closer step by step to your destination, to your desired outcome. And then put an action plan next to each goal so you take small steps every day that get you closer to where you want to go. Now, creating this sort of change takes a lot of effort. It's hard work. Okay. It requires you to overcome a lot of personal and professional challenges that you never thought you'd ever have to worry about it. And there's all sorts of reasons why you shouldn't or you can't do what I've just described. So there's only one way to get started. And it's something that I'm sure all of us have heard many times over the course of the last 30 years since this slogan has been around. And simply put, just do it. Just start, just create that destination, and you will start moving down that path towards your desired outcome. So in summary, just a couple of things to remember. First and foremost, remember to choose your love and love your choice, okay? Decide where you will focus your limited time and resources on, and then commit to sticking with that focus. Second, let focus guide your mindset, the way you behave and you think, and your actions, the steps that you take and the decisions you make on a day-to-day basis. And third, create a destination that reflects the business that you want to build. Okay, create that snapshot, that desired outcome, and work back from there to make sure that you know where you're headed and where you want to go. So just in closing, thank you very much for your attention. If anybody would want a copy of my presentation, just feel free to send an email to this address, and I'll send you actually a destination planning worksheet that you can use to go through the exercise I've just talked about, and I'll be happy to sign you up to my newsletter so you get access to some articles, videos, and podcasts that I do that hopefully will give you some additional value to help you build your business. So thank you very much for your attention. And I think we might have some time for some questions. So I'm happy to answer those.
Hey, Zoltan, we just have, I think, 1 minute here
Okay.
until the next speaker. But I wanted to ask very, very briefly, does the launch code have a website as well?
Yes. If you go to zoltanvardy.com or thelaunchcode.net, you'll go to the website. Yeah.
And you also mentioned a podcast. Is it, where is that available?
Yeah, so I just launched that last week, as a matter of fact. So very new. It's
Oh,
called Launch
congratulations!
Stories,
Yeah,
and it's basically focused on how to build a successful global business. I interview successful entrepreneurs, investors, and other people in the ecosystem. It's called Launch Stories, and it's on Apple, Google, and Spotify.
awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time here, Zoltan.
Okay,
I really enjoyed the presentation and power of focus. It's important.
Thank you, Trevor. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.